I've been using Claude Code as a QA engineer now for 6 months. And I just wanted to give some insight on it. I made a video about around the time when I first started using it on what should, like how to get started with Claude Code as a QA engineer. I just want to give you a brief look at what it's about. And I'll also put a link to it in the description so that if you want to go ahead and take a look at it, because it was very, very helpful, very, very insightful as a beginner of Claude Code. Here today, we're going to be talking about what can we do as QA engineers, because guess what? The software engineers, they already have their game plan. What about us? What about us QA engineers who, as our engineering counterparts, they are pushing a lot more code, opening up a lot more pull requests. What are we to do with all of this that's going on? Well, if your idea is to say, well, you know what? I'm going to hunker down and I repeat, I am not going to learn how to use AI, then I'm sorry to tell you, but
congratulations, you played yourself.
That is not what we're going to do. We have to look at what is the most popular tool that's being promoted for software engineering, because we as QA are engineers ourselves. What is the most popular tool? And let's go ahead and see how we can make use of that. So, and basically in that video, I was breaking down that you should spend an hour building a type of PR, a pull request triage skill to analyze the diffs and outputs, risk levels, suggested tests, things like that. If you don't have access to Claude Code or CodeX or Gemini CLI at work, get your own credits, right? Invest. Either get a subscription, get some API credits so that you can install it, use that, right? So you can practice on real diffs. You know, you can easily go and set up a GitHub, push some code up there, make some changes, open up a pull request to merge and say, what's the difference? Take Anthropic's course. Intro course is Cloud 101, Claude Code in action, and, start small. Codify team standards, the prompt templates. So like things that you normally do on a, like the way that your team normally works, you turn that into a prompt and then you say, all right, Claude, go ahead and do this and so forth, right? That was like when I was first getting started with Claude. And those were my suggestions as a QA engineer. Been in automation for a very long time. Like I said, go check out the video. If you hadn't seen it, it's really, really helpful to get started, right? So if you haven't got started yet, that's a problem, but it's never too late. But now, now I just want to recap some of the things that I've learned in these past 6 months, some of the things that I've been doing. You really, really, really need to start thinking with AI that I can do anything, that there are no limitations. And when you try it, and you'll see how far you can push yourself versus what it can do and where your involvement is needed, because you will see that where your involvement is needed in the things that AI does, it's a lot of work. So you can outsource yourself from having to do all the minuscule tasks, and you can be reviewing, can be building. People keep saying, oh, AI is going to replace this. Like, I have never been busier in the past few months. It's weird. The better I got with Claude, the more I started to understand it, the better I got with AI for like agentic AI, the more busy I keep finding myself, because I keep getting these new ideas. Oh, we can do this, we can do that. So you will see like building out these skills, right? So getting familiar with agents, getting familiar with skills, getting familiar with MCP servers, super duper important. And it's not only for engineers, This is very, very important for QA engineers as well, right? So not only for the software developers, but also for the QA engineers. And I'm gonna give you some examples, right? So skills. Let's start off with the skills. If you can have think about it like this: when you're building out these skills, how do I work? What do I do that's a repetitive thing over and over and over again? And can I build a plugin? Can I build a skill that says, all right, when I say I need you to, build a test plan, for instance, right? Now you're building this automated workflow that says that AI is going to use it. Says, all right, I need you to do this, and they can be super, super detailed and have these tools and go through all these different workflows and processes that it's going to give you where you can drive the output that you want. When AI gives bad results, it can be for a variety of reasons, but I'm going to say the primary reason that people get bad results in their AI, like in their AI output, is because they have terrible, terrible AI input. So the better you prompt it, the better you feed it information, the better you're going to get out of it. Now, another cause of issue could be because of the model that people are using, where based on the test that you're doing, you might want to use a stronger model. So like if you're trying to do some type of reasoning type stuff, use a stronger model. Now when it comes to the execution, you might use a weaker model, right? But the thing that you need to understand with that is it all comes down to what you put in and the models you're putting, and then what you're running that skill against. So learning how to build skills, like that is something that I built a few skills over the past 6 months, and to see how they streamline my workflow, crazy. And the other thing that you have to understand with the skills, you can use other people's skills, and then you can put things around it to say, oh, okay, now like, John built this skill. I want when I'm using this skill for this to happen, right? So I call it a wrapper. So building wrapper around skills, and then you have agents as well, where you can have, all right, go ahead and do this on this work, and then come back to me and give me all the information, things running in parallel. I have learned, I've been able to work on multiple streams of work at the same time. And now as these tools, Claude, Gemini, CodeX, they continue to get better. Now instead of things being done sequentially, they can run in parallel. So being able to see that over the past months, I'm like, oh, I get more ideas. Oh, how can I do this? How can I do that? So building out skills, building out agents, building these plugins, really, really important. And if you see yourself doing something manually, right? Something that's tedious, time consuming. I know you might be trying to just make the day, extend the day. But when you try to do that, that's when companies are like, oh, let's see, can we get rid of this person? I don't know if we really need them. They're just taking up a lot of time. But when you look for that efficiency and you're like, oh, now I'm going to be contributing to the AI so that I can continue to use my brain to build out things, to verify that things are working correctly and get some type of consistency. You free yourself, you free the company, you free your engineers. You because you're involved, because they're involved, you're highlighting accuracy, right? So that's another way of using it. So definitely, like I said, the skills, the plugins, the agents. Another thing that I have been getting a lot more acclimated to in the past month or so, MCP servers, model context protocols, and I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it completely. However, I have seen how it is such a game changer, how it is such a lifesaver, because I'm gonna give you a couple of examples, right, of how MCP servers come into play. So one way, right? One of my coworkers, they built this MCP server where it is monitoring our testing results, and then we can just use Claude, we can use CodeX, we can, like whatever. When you're using an MCP server, it's not bound to one particular large language model. It makes it available to other ones so that you can just query and say, oh, can you check why these failed? And it looks it up like, oh, okay, that makes okay, and it gives you details in real time, and you build it how you want it to work. Because what the MCP server needs is access to information, and you're building these little pipelines into the information that before you'd have to go searching it manually, looking through logs and stuff. So you can build MCP servers to look through the logs. You can build MCP servers to like, they're basically little tool sets that are being built. So if you think about it as a Swift Army knife or as a toolbox, I kind of think of the MCP server as a toolbox. It's like, okay, inside the toolbox, we have the hammer for putting in nails. We have the drill for drilling things in. We have the measuring tape. We have all these little tools in there And that's what the MCP server is, like your toolbox of different tools for a particular subject topic, right? I'm going to be making a video about MCP servers that I'll link in this video, so that we can have a deeper breakdown of it. But it is at the end of the day, the MCP servers tools, and then the awesome part about it, when these large language models like Claude are using these MCP servers, they can chain themselves to each other. So you're like, all right, I'm running these tests. Can you look at this MCP server to see the results and find out why it's failing? So now it can connect to that MCP server, look at what's failing, and then it says, now if you have another MCP server that is for checking the logs, it goes, okay, and you'll see it in real time. It'll say, oh, I'm running this tool from this MCP server to get this information, and now for my next step, oh, I'm going to be running the tools from this MCP server to get this information. And then it comes back to you and say, okay, this is what I found. And now instead of you having to go, all right, let me go and spend an hour digging through these logs. And then once I got these logs, let me go spend another hour digging through these logs to get information. It's like these MCP server tools, they are a lifesaver. Like I said, I'm still trying to wrap my head around them even better. But just by using them, I see how helpful they are. And the fact that, like, with AI nowadays, you can contribute so much more than you were to before, because back in the days, you might have to be a well-versed engineer. Now, you can get starter code happening and then say, oh, I did this. Can somebody come in here and make it better? Because I might not understand the code 100%, but the output that we're getting is very, very helpful and very informative. So I'm like, all right, cool. I put a MCP, a light MCP server wrapper around here. And now this is what we have. Oh, okay. Oh, engineer. Oh yeah, this is really, really helpful. Let me just make these little modifications. And now we work together. We collaborated, and now we have a tool that is helpful to everyone. So to me, like the past few months using Claude, I have learned so much. It's been so helpful. Now, that's not to say that there aren't any issues with these large language models, because on the other side of it, when trying to use it to troubleshoot the code and stuff, it can make assumptions. It can hallucinate. It can take you down these really, really dark and deep rabbit holes that now you're questioning yourself, like, oh, this thing, like, it's really overly confident. But guess what? You can also build, you can also challenge, you can also build skills to challenge the output. So there's so many, like, here's what I want you to take away from this, right? When you're using AI, when you're using Claude, CodeX, Gemini, whatever, the world is in your hands. The world is your oyster. You are able to like, if you're able to think it, you're probably able to build it. And AI might gaslight you at times. It might gaslight you at times, but that's okay, because I'd rather fail 200 steps forward to fall 50 steps back than to only take 10 steps forward, if that makes sense. I would rather fail going 200 steps forward, failing 50 steps back, than succeeding only 10 steps. My goal, wherever I go, whatever I do, whoever I interact with, is to add value. And I am value driven. So if I am able to sprint somewhere and then stumble, and then I get back up and I make adjustments, that's what I'm looking to do. So whether the AI hallucinates, takes us down these rabbit holes, bet I got it. Now I know for next time, how do I program the AI to, okay, don't make this mistake again, so that I can continue to be more efficient. Not chasing these rabbit holes that AI might lead me into, but it's a learning experience. Every single thing that we do is a learning experience, and I wanted to share that with you, of my experience as QA engineer after 6 months of using Claude Code. Hopefully that helps you. Let me know your thoughts. Drop me a comment. Are you in QA? Are you in software engineering? Do you use Claude? Do you use CodeX? Do you use Gemini, CLI? Do you use these tools? Do you use Cursor? Do you use these tools to help you progress? And what has been your experience, the good, the bad, the ugly? Let me know. I want to talk about it with you more. Drop me a comment below. Also, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. join us at techcoachdraft.dev where we can have these type of conversations, because I want to know your experience. I want us to be able to help each other at our Vibe Coding Chills. Join us for our Scrum Nights, get access to Resume, Flow, Tech Barbarians Coaching Portal, and the Speaker Precisely app so that you can revolutionize every aspect of your technical career and life over at techcoachdraft.dev. But until next time, Tech Coach Draft, we are out.
Ain't no days off. The way isn't training. You don't bleed in practice, you die in the field. Look. Swinging the wood till my knuckles are bleeding. I don't need rest, it's the combat I'm needing. 10,000 hours, I'm locked in the zone. Carving my spirit right down to the bone. Stepping my radius, watch how I sever. I'm swinging this blade like I do this forever.